Hello friends, in this video and the next one, we'll be discussing about processes, threads, and how these two are different in the context of an operating system. So to understand the difference between a process and a thread, we need to first understand what is a process, what are the various states of a process, what are the various components which make up a process. A process is nothing but a program in execution. Now, program is nothing but a sample code which you write in C, C++, Java, Python, or any other language. Okay, so that is a program. When it is getting executed, the whole entity is called a process. A process consists of different parts. Whenever you start the program for running, a process gets created and different parts get allocated to the process. Let's look at the different parts of a process. What I'm drawing here is the memory which has been allocated by the operating system to the process. There is a part which gets allocated for text or the program text. So here your actual code sits. There is a part which gets allocated for data. Here your actual global variables sit in this part. There is a part which gets allocated for heap. Heap is nothing but a space which is allocated for dynamic memory allocation. So things which are not dynamic memory allocation is nothing but when a program is getting executed, the operating system doesn't know how much memory this program is going to take. So heap is the part of the memory allocation which can expand dynamically according to if the memory requirement of the program increases. So dynamic array allocation, linked list allocation, dynamic stack queue. So dynamic memory allocation is what is done in heap. And then there is something called stack. Stack is nothing but it stores local variables, function return values, function signatures, and all those things. And then there is this space in between that you see. This particular space in between, this is free space or the pool space in which the heap can actually expand. So heap is not constant. Heap can expand depending on if the memory requirement of the program increases, the heap can expand. These are the various parts of a process. Now, a process, right from when it starts till it gets terminated. So this is new process is getting created and here the process is getting terminated. In between a newly created process and by the time that process gets terminated, the process primarily goes through three states. One is ready, the other one is running, and a third one is waiting. So overall, a process has 5 different states. First one is new, second one is ready, third one is running, then it can be waiting, it can be terminated, and terminated is the last one, which is the fifth one. So this can be the fourth one. So between 2, 3 and 4, this is not generally in order. So first a program is new, yes, then it makes itself available to the operating system and waits for the processor to be assigned a processor. Now that state is called ready state. Ready state is when the process has all the memory, all the resources, it is waiting for the processor to be assigned to this process. Once the process is assigned, this process goes from ready to running state. So now the process is running, the instructions are actually getting executed. Now let us suppose there is a high priority task. Let us say there is a CPU task which needs to be executed by the processor. So what happens is the processor ditches this process and sends it back to the ready state. So whenever there is a high priority task which needs to be executed. Then the CPU removes this particular process from its memory and sends it back to the ready state. And when the CPU gets free, then again this process is picked up and goes into the running state. There is another scenario when the process is running. It can wait for user input. So whenever you write a program, for example, and you are saying enter two numbers, so it is actually waiting for a user input. At that time, the process goes into a state called waiting state. And once the user input is done, it goes back to the ready state and waits for the CPU to get the process or CPU or the processor to be assigned to this process. Now, these are various states, and you see this between 2, 3, 4 various. These states keep changing themselves depending on in what state the process is, what it is waiting for. These three states keep getting assigned. So this one is very important, that in the interviews they ask a lot the difference between various states of a process. Another thing which you should remember is whenever a process is running and inside the CPU, and the CPU has got a high priority task, at that time the CPU has to remove whatever it is doing currently. So for example, as this is our CPU and it is currently executing process 1, and suddenly somebody tells him that, boss, you need to execute a process 2 which is of high priority. Okay, then the CPU will ditch the process 1. So now the process 1 will go into a ready state from running state, and process 2 will be picked up. This phenomena of jumping from one process to another by the CPU is called context switching. Please remember, it's a very important thing. It is called context switch. We will see in the next video exactly what are the things that context switch does. But first you need to understand what is a context switch. So I'm just repeating it again because it is very important. So whenever there is the phenomena of CPU shifting from one process to another is called a context switch. So it puts a process which is currently in the running state back to the ready state and takes another process which is of higher priority for execution, and this phenomena is called as context switch. Okay. Another thing is, whenever the CPU is executing process 1, somebody needs to signal the CPU that there is a high priority task. So to do that, there is something called as an interrupt. So an interrupt is nothing but it's a system generated call which is sent to the CPU, and the CPU knows that now I need to interrupt whatever am I doing. I need to put myself onto another task. So interrupt is nothing but a signal which is sent to the CPU to halt whatever it is doing right now and change its execution to another process or a program. So what we learned here is states of a process, what is an interrupt, what is a context switch, and how does the whole cycle of a process getting executed takes place. There is one more thing where CPU uses, or the operating system basically uses a data structure to maintain the states of process. So there is something called as process control block, or PCB, also known as process control block. Every process has a process control block. So just to give you a scenario, so let's say there are 10 instructions in process 1. So for example, process 1 has 10 instructions. Okay, now the CPU has finished executing 5 of them, and suddenly there was an interrupt and CPU had to switch to process 2, and process P1 was put back to ready state. In this case, when CPU is done with P2, it will take back P1, and it has to start from instruction number 6 and not from 5. Till 5 it has already executed. So CPU needs, or the operating system needs to keep track of this phenomena, or keep track of this counter, where till where the program has finished its execution and from where it needs to start. So to do, and there are certain other kinds of tasks. So to maintain all the information about a process, operating system maintains something called as a program control, process control block, which is a data structure used for maintaining all the information about a process. In the next video, we'll be discussing more about the process control block as well as threads and how are processes and threads different from each other. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe it. Have a great day. Thank you.